In the shadowed outskirts of Veldarin, where the forest met the craggy shores, Ariadne felt a prickling sensation on her skin. She scanned the dense foliage, her hand instinctively resting on the hilt of her sword. A figure emerged from the mist, clad in shimmering armor that caught the pale moonlight. To Ariadne's mild surprise and irritation, the stranger took her appearance as an invitation to speak. "Do I look like someone who wants to hear you monologue?" she cut off sharply. Without warning, a rush of elemental force surged behind Ariadne. She leaped aside, witnessing the water from the nearby lake transform into high-pressure jets aimed at her. Dodging left, she saw the liquid carve through solid stone. "No monologue, just a distraction," she muttered to herself, acknowledging the clever tactic. The next attack came predictably telegraphed. A sweeping gesture sent the ground shattering in her direction. Ariadne dodged back, gathering air to shield herself. As she moved, she sensed a spike of annoyance from her opponent. Dodging an anchor hurled at her, she focused on the disrupted axiom, sensing a boulder that shattered against her parried sword. "Impressive," Ariadne remarked, gathering her own elemental power in response. With a swift thrust, she sent a disrupting pulse into the ground, causing the barriers of her opponent's anchors to falter momentarily. "Was that supposed to stop me?" mocked the shadow, voice dripping with sarcasm. Ariadne ignored the jibe, seizing control of the boundary field she sensed and sending a retaliatory pressure wave towards her opponent. The attack ripped through a nearby structure, splintering timber and sending debris flying. Her adversary reacted swiftly, launching an unseen attack. Ariadne ducked and weaved, her senses alert to every movement of the shadow. Dark tendrils surged towards her, desiccating everything in their path. The threat was clear. Any contact would be lethal. As frustration mounted, the shadow intensified her assault, manipulating darkness with deadly intent. Ariadne maneuvered with agility, evading each strike with precision born of combat experience. "She's losing focus," Ariadne noted inwardly. The shadow's aggression was compromising her control, revealing cracks in her formidable facade. Ariadne knew opponents like her, a powerhouse reliant on a single devastating ability, struggling when that power was countered or resisted. The skirmish continued, each move calculated and countered. Ariadne, though wary, noted a growing dependence of her opponent on a shattered relic, a halo that both enhanced her abilities and made her vulnerable in her rage. Amidst the chaos, Ariadne's mind raced with strategy. She needed to isolate and neutralize her opponent, dismantling the source of her power. The plan crystallized as she observed the shadow's desperate reliance on the shattered relic. With a deflected boulder and a few strategic moves, Ariadne sought to keep her distance, a calculated risk in a duel where every move carried deadly consequences. The air crackled with tension as Ariadne and her adversary circled each other amidst the remnants of their clash. Shadows danced around them, reflecting the unsettled nature of their confrontation. "Impressive, isn't it?" The shadow's voice sliced through the silence, filled with a mix of admiration and disdain. "You managed to survive longer than most." Ariadne's grip tightened on her sword. "I'm not here for your admiration, just your end." The shadow chuckled, a sound as cold and sharp as the wind whipping through the trees. "Bold words for someone who's yet to breach my defenses." Ariadne's eyes narrowed. She knew the shadow's arrogance masked deeper vulnerabilities. Every attack she launched revealed cracks in her opponent's control. Yet, she couldn't afford to underestimate her. With a sudden surge of elemental power, Ariadne launched herself forward, swords flashing. The shadow met her blow for blow, their weapons clashing with a resonance that echoed through the night. Each strike was precise, calculated, neither giving ground nor relenting in their assault. "You fight well," conceded the shadow, a hint of grudging respect in her voice. "But you can't possibly understand what's at stake here." Ariadne parried a fierce strike, pushing back against the onslaught. "I understand enough. Your power is a facade. Without it, you're nothing." The shadow's laugh was bitter. "You think you know me? You think you understand what drives me?" As they fought, Ariadne sensed a shift in the shadow's tactics. She was drawing deeper into the shattered halo's remnants, channeling its fractured power with increasing desperation. It fueled her attacks, but also made her movements more predictable. Ariadne seized the opportunity, feinting left before darting right. She aimed a precise strike at the halo, sending a surge of disruptive energy through it. The relic trembled under the assault, its weakened state evident. The shadow recoiled, fury contorting her features. "You dare!" she snarled, her control slipping momentarily. Ariadne pressed her advantage, relentless in her pursuit. She evaded a flurry of dark tendrils and countered with a barrage of elemental force. Each move brought them closer to a decisive moment. The forest around them seemed to hold its breath, as if anticipating the outcome of their clash. Ariadne knew she couldn't afford to falter now. Victory lay within reach, but so did the risk of underestimating her opponent's resilience. With a final surge of determination, Ariadne unleashed a devastating blow, aiming for the heart of the shadow's defenses. The halo shattered under the force, its fragments dissipating into the night. For a fleeting moment, silence descended upon the battlefield. Ariadne stood poised, breathless yet vigilant. The shadow, now vulnerable and bereft of her primary weapon, stared back with a mixture of defiance and disbelief. "It's over," Ariadne declared, her voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. The shadow's response was a low, guttural growl, a primal sound that spoke of unyielding determination. With a swift movement, she vanished into the darkness, leaving behind only a whisper of her presence. Ariadne watched the shadows retreat, her senses alert to any sign of renewed threat. She knew their encounter wasn't the end. It was merely the beginning of a deeper, more perilous conflict yet to unfold. Ariadne stood amidst the aftermath of her confrontation, the echoes of battle still reverberating in her mind. The shattered remnants of the halo lay scattered around her, a testament to the power she had managed to disrupt. Yet, despite her victory, a sense of unease lingered. The shadow had retreated, vanishing into the darkness with a silent fury that spoke volumes. Ariadne knew their encounter was far from over. The shadow's resilience and resourcefulness hinted at deeper layers of complexity, perhaps even alliances and resources Ariadne had yet to uncover. Taking a moment to gather her thoughts, Ariadne scanned the surroundings, her senses attuned to any sign of movement. The forest remained eerily quiet, the night embracing a fragile peace. But Ariadne knew better than to let her guard down. The shadow's absence was both a relief and a concern. In defeating her opponent's primary weapon, Ariadne had anticipated a decisive shift in their conflict. Yet, the shadow's disappearance hinted at a strategic withdrawal rather than defeat. As she contemplated her next move, Ariadne weighed her options. Pursuing the shadow deeper into unfamiliar territory was risky, especially without knowing the extent of her adversary's reach. On the other hand, allowing the shadow to regroup and retaliate posed its own dangers. Ariadne's communicator buzzed softly, interrupting her thoughts. She glanced at the device, recognizing the encrypted frequency of her allies. With a flick of her finger, she activated the transmission. "Sergeant Ariadne here," she spoke into the device, her voice steady despite the underlying tension. "Ariadne, this is Commander Velan. Report your status," came the immediate response, Velan's voice a welcome anchor in the uncertainty. "I've disrupted the shadow's primary weapon," Ariadne reported succinctly. "But she's retreated. I believe she's regrouping." There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, filled with unspoken understanding. "Understood. Maintain your position and await further instructions. We're mobilizing a reconnaissance team to your location." Ariadne acknowledged the orders, her mind already mapping out potential strategies. She knew the shadow wouldn't remain idle for long. Their conflict had escalated beyond mere confrontation. It had become a battle of wills and wits, each move calculated to gain the upper hand. As she waited for reinforcements, Ariadne inspected the remnants of the shattered halo. The relic had held considerable power, its fragments pulsing with residual energy. She wondered about its origins, its purpose in the shadow's arsenal, and the implications of its destruction. Her thoughts turned to the shadow herself, a formidable adversary with layers of mystery yet to unravel. What drove her relentless pursuit of power? What alliances and resources did she command beyond what Ariadne had witnessed? The forest stirred with a gentle breeze, carrying with it the scent of pine and damp earth. Ariadne remained vigilant, her senses attuned to the slightest disturbance. She knew that their next encounter would be decisive, a test of strength, strategy, and determination. As the minutes stretched into hours, Ariadne maintained her watch, poised for whatever challenge the shadow might present next. In the quiet of the night, amidst the shadows and remnants of their conflict, Ariadne prepared herself for the inevitable continuation of their battle. Certainly. Here's chapter 4 of the story, continuing from the previous chapters, with a word count ranging from 500 to 800 words. Ariadne stood sentinel amidst the dense foliage, her senses attuned to every rustle of leaves and snap of twigs. The aftermath of her confrontation with the shadow lingered like a palpable tension in the air, yet the night remained eerily still. She awaited the arrival of the reconnaissance team, her mind racing with strategies and contingencies. Minutes turned into an hour, and still, there was no sign of her allies. Ariadne's patience wore thin as she scanned the perimeter once more, her fingers twitching on the hilt of her sword. The forest seemed to hold its breath, anticipation hanging thick in the air. A crackle of static broke the silence, followed by a voice cutting through the darkness. "This is Sergeant Blue, approaching your location. Confirm visual contact." Ariadne's relief was palpable as she responded swiftly, "Visual contact confirmed, Sergeant Blue. Proceed with caution." Moments later, a small team emerged from the shadows, led by Sergeant Blue himself. They moved with precision and purpose, their expressions a mix of readiness and resolve. Ariadne greeted them with a nod, her gaze assessing each member of the team. "Sergeant Ariadne," acknowledged Sergeant Blue, his voice low but authoritative. "Commander Velan sends his regards. We're here to support your position and assess the situation." Ariadne briefed them quickly, detailing her encounter with the shadow and the subsequent retreat. She emphasized the destruction of the shadow's primary weapon and the implications of its shattered remnants. Sergeant Blue listened intently, his brow furrowing with concern. "The shadow won't stay hidden for long," Ariadne cautioned, her tone grave. "We need to be prepared for her next move." Sergeant Blue nodded grimly, his gaze flickering to the remnants of the shattered halo scattered around them. "Understood. Our priority is to secure this area and gather as much intel as possible." Together, they set up a makeshift perimeter, positioning themselves strategically to cover all possible approaches. The reconnaissance team worked swiftly and efficiently, their movements coordinated and purposeful. As they settled into their positions, Ariadne's mind raced with possibilities. She knew the shadow was a formidable adversary, driven by motives that remained elusive. Their conflict had escalated beyond mere confrontation. It had become a battle of strategy and endurance, each move calculated to gain the upper hand. Hours passed in tense silence, broken only by occasional murmurs and the soft shuffle of boots on forest floor. Ariadne kept vigil, her senses sharp and alert. She watched the shadows deepen, knowing that the night held secrets yet to be revealed. Suddenly, a ripple of movement caught Ariadne's attention, a subtle shift in the foliage, barely discernible against the backdrop of darkness. She signaled silently to Sergeant Blue, who nodded in acknowledgement. "Contact," Sergeant Blue murmured into his communicator, alerting the team to prepare for potential engagement. Ariadne gripped her sword tightly, her pulse quickening with anticipation. The shadow had returned, her presence a dark echo in the stillness of the night. Ariadne felt a surge of adrenaline, readying herself for the inevitable confrontation. Through the veil of darkness, the shadow emerged, her form silhouetted against the moonlit clearing. She moved with purpose, her eyes locked on Ariadne with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. "It ends here," the shadow's voice carried on the wind, a chilling declaration of intent. Ariadne squared her shoulders, her resolve unwavering. "Not if I have anything to say about it." The tension between them crackled like lightning as they prepared to clash once more, the forest bearing witness to their relentless struggle. The forest held its breath as Ariadne and the shadow faced each other in the moonlit clearing. Tension coiled between them like a serpent ready to strike, each waiting for the other to make the first move. Around them, the reconnaissance team remained poised, weapons at the ready, their eyes flickering between the two adversaries. "You've disrupted my plans," the shadow's voice cut through the silence, tinged with a mix of defiance and frustration. "But you won't stop me." Ariadne tightened her grip on her sword, her gaze steady and unwavering. "Your plans end here. There's nowhere left for you to hide." With a sudden surge of elemental power, the shadow lunged forward, a whirlwind of darkness and fury. Ariadne met her blow with swift precision, their swords clashing with a resounding clang that echoed through the clearing. The force of their impact sent shockwaves through the ground, scattering leaves and debris. The shadow's movements were swift and unpredictable, fueled by a raw determination to overcome Ariadne's defenses. Dark tendrils lashed out, seeking to ensnare and immobilize. Ariadne dodged and weaved, her agility matched only by her resilience. Their battle unfolded with a dance of shadows and steel, each maneuver a calculated risk. Ariadne relied on her training and instincts, anticipating the shadow's next move with razor-sharp focus. She countered with bursts of elemental force, disrupting the shadow's control and forcing her onto the defensive. "You can't defeat me," the shadow taunted between strikes, her voice carrying a hint of desperation beneath the bravado. Ariadne remained silent, her concentration unbroken as she pressed her advantage. She knew the shadow's reliance on the shattered halo made her vulnerable. Each blow aimed at weakening her opponent's resolve, wearing down her defenses one strike at a time. As minutes stretched into what felt like an eternity, Ariadne sensed the shadow's fatigue, a subtle faltering in her movements. She seized the opportunity, launching a relentless assault aimed at overwhelming her adversary. The shadow staggered under the onslaught, her control slipping as Ariadne's relentless determination pushed her to the brink. With a final, decisive strike, Ariadne aimed for the shadow's weakened defenses, her sword glowing with elemental energy. The impact was deafening, a clash of forces that reverberated through the clearing. The shadow stumbled backward, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. For a moment, time seemed to stand still as Ariadne stood victorious, her chest heaving with exertion. "It's over," Ariadne declared firmly, her voice cutting through the lingering echoes of battle. "You've lost." The shadow's response was a low, guttural growl, a last defiant stand against the inevitable. She raised her sword in a final act of defiance, but Ariadne was quicker. With a swift and precise strike, she disarmed her adversary, the shadow's weapon clattering to the ground. Defeated but unbowed, the shadow stared at Ariadne with a mixture of resignation and disbelief. "What will you do now?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Ariadne considered her options carefully, her gaze unwavering. "You will face justice," she replied evenly. "But first, you will answer for your crimes." With the reconnaissance team surrounding them, Ariadne secured the shadow and restraints, ensuring she posed no further threat. The forest seemed to exhale a collective sigh of relief as the tension of their conflict dissipated. As they made their way back to their base, Ariadne reflected on the events that had unfolded. The shadow's defeat marked a turning point, a victory not just for herself, but for all who had stood against tyranny and darkness. Yet, Ariadne knew that their struggle was far from over. The shadow's capture was a testament to their resilience and determination, but it also served as a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. As dawn broke over the horizon, casting a golden glow upon the forest, Ariadne allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction. Their battle had been hard-won, but it had also strengthened their resolve to protect their world from those who sought to harm it.